who are praying to whatever God they think might help them have pointy-toed boots that will allow them to have the right stats to win.
Right, and that's a perfect interpretation of, the example that you gave of your father and whatnot. That's pretty much along the lines of what a lot of our fantasy football players believe, as far as these mythical fantasy gods who are looking over them, controlling, a certain player's running down the sideline and has a open path to the touchdown, and he just falls over his own 2 feet. It's like, how did that happen? It had to have been some sort of god that, tripped him and whatnot. So I guess my question is do you, and I know this isn't a black and white, right or wrong answer, but, do you feel as if there really might be fantasy gods that truly do exist?
Okay, so I absolutely do believe in God, and I absolutely do profess my faith in Jesus Christ, and I don't even know how to begin to sort through how Jesus Christ deals with football. When I was in high school, I was on the kick team with the white cowgirl hats and the cowgirl boots. I don't know if you've ever seen the Kilgore Rangerettes, but I was in that version in San Angelo Central Bobcats. Woohoo, the Bobcats.
Yeah.
Okay. So we used to do, when we would kick the drill team whole, we were every bit as athletic as the boys. Thank you very much. And the woman who would give us what we were supposed to inspire ourselves with, she would say, "Kick high, girls, kick high for Jesus." So I do get it that football and God are supposed to be intertwined, but when you try actually to make sense out of that, it's really no more truly meaningful than cheesecake. Cheesecake is rich and beautiful and wonderful, but it's not really meaningful. So, frankly, I don't know how to make sense. I think fantasy football is probably a really fun diversion, but I think if you start trying to believe that God is in on it, you're trying to make your fantasy more meaningful than it really is.
Or you're sorry excuse for a fantasy coach, and you blame all of your losses on something else that you can't control, when it's really your own fault for not being able to win. But I like your answer. Bub, did you have a question?
Yeah, for the record, before I ask my question, I don't believe in really any fantasy gods. I just want to throw that out
Bub,
there.
I believe you previously have said that you do believe a little bit. Not completely.
Yeah, a little. I think that goes back.
What fantasy god? What fantasy god? I need to know. Is it Vishnu? Is it Vishnu the Destroyer? Who is it? Who's your god?
Oh, his name is Johnbo?
I've heard there's a couple of coaches who believe that the fantasy god is in the form of Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman plays a really good god. There are a whole bunch of beautiful black actors who have to deal with trying to play God on a regular basis. Whoopi Goldberg had to do this.
There we go.
Where she has to do the pottery scene. Yeah.
Was that Ghost? No.
Yes,
Ghost.
Ghost.
Was it Ghost?
Yeah.
Yes, beautiful film. Go ahead, Bub.
Yet again, black actor having to play God. But I hear you.
I don't know how much. I know you said before you grew up with big sports and stuff like that. I don't know how much NFL you watch now, but Tim Tebow has been in the league for a few years now, and he's very vocal, obviously, about his Christianity and his love for God and Jesus. I think there are some players, I think there are some fans who I don't want to say despise it, but maybe don't like it and don't think it should be that vocal, that talked about. What do you kind of think about his openness about his Christianity?
Okay, can you still hear me? Because I'm still on my cell phone. I'm on the back porch in North Carolina. There are birds chirping. Okay.
Clear as day.
Okay, so I want to make sure I get this clear. So, Tim Tebow is white. When he puts black writing over his eyes that there are a whole bunch of black players in the NFL who profess their evangelical faith, but they're not on the cover of Sports Illustrated or of GQ. I think Tim Tebow ended up on the cover of GQ, and that's not to hate on Tim Tebow. I mean, he's a child of God, all that, but he's like a white savior, and especially while we've got a black president, there are a whole bunch of NFL fans who are looking for a white savior with John 3:16 written in black ink across his eyebrows. So yeah, there you go.
Excellent. Very good stuff. Well, her name is Amy Laura Hall. Again, she is the professor over at the Duke Divinity School in North Carolina. She has shared some very interesting opinions on our very talked about subject here in the Dynasty, fantasy gods. Amy Laura, thank you again so much for being on the show. You're a great sport, and thank you again.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling.
All right, take care now.
That was this week's Dynasty Podcast interactive segment.
Bob, she was such a doll. I didn't think it was that bad of a train wreck. It kind of was crazy and ridiculous, but it made it great, didn't it?
Eric, I was just so excited to hear her talk, and like, can you guys hear me okay? I just didn't know, my phone is a little weird, but she was so lovely, and she just sounded so great, and she was an angel, and oh my gosh, I'm in love. I was just trying to match her enthusiasm.
Oh.
Did I do a good job?
You did great, Bob. Thank you for that. And that's going to pretty much put a bow here on episode number 3 of the Dynasty Podcast. I'd like to thank Coach Chris Heney, of course. I'd like to thank Coach Brian, Coach Zach, of course, wonderful, glorious sister Amy Laura Hall. They were all on the show, and they were all wonderful. I'd like to thank all of you listeners. Keep up the great feedback coming our way, and continue to think of questions for us for our future Call the Dynasty Team segment.
And don't forget to follow the Riverdale Gazette on Twitter for all of your up-to-date and late-breaking news from the Dynasty.
Sorry about that. Little production situation going on here, but we're going to move forward. This is your perfectly ranked Commissioner Scooper.
And this is Bob Palucha.
And next week on the Stop it. Stop the music. Stop it.
Stop it. Ah!
Where's this? Where's the music?
Stop.
Bub, you want to know what I realized?
Finally...
No. It was a rhetorical question.
Oh, what were you thinking?
Fuck. So, I was just about to wrap shit up and say who we have on the show next week, and it deserves more than that. You know who we have on the show next week. Do you know?
I do.
I remember providing you with the schedule.
I'm trying to act like I'm trying to trick everyone.
Well, you're doing a good job because you're tricking me. We have a wonderful guest on the show next week. We cleared out the schedule for the show so that we're not even going to have a coach's interview next week because we want to allow for as much time as possible to talk to this wonderful individual. Bub, give me a drum roll. On the show next week, episode number 4. Motherfucking Ed Hockley and his biceps. I'm not fucking around. Ed Hockley is going to be on the show next week.
Ed Hockley.
So we're going to be back next week with Ed Hockley and his biceps. We're going to... Good luck to everyone in week 2. Over and out!
Greetings, this is Dynasty board member and Dynasty spreadsheet analyst, Coach Brandon McDowell of the Brutal Deluxe. This dazzling episode of the Dynasty Podcast was sponsored by the one, the only, Jube's Family Restaurant, ranked number 1 in Massachusetts on Wednesdays when the wind is blowing more than 15 miles per hour during a leap year. Jube's Family Restaurant is not the place you want to miss. You'll regret it for the rest of your miserable life.